Ladies and gentlemen, it's 1 o'clock. Directors, thank you for being here. And I would say that we have Dean Tremblay in the house as well, who is City of Greenwood Administration. And welcome, Dean. It's always great to see you. Do you know everybody at the table, or do we need to introduce ourselves?
I think I got most of them.
Okay, all good then. So I'll call this meeting to order with the land acknowledgement. In the spirit of respect, truth, and reconciliation, we honor and thank the Indigenous peoples on whose traditional and unceded lands we operate. So the agenda, any changes in the agenda, I remind you that a late item got added to the agenda, which was 10Q, which I usually don't allow, but it was a slip up on both Anitra and my part. So 10Q is Bill Windman, and you asked it to be added, remember?
And Anitra had mentioned to me to add as an emergency item the grant and aid that was missed for the Fair Society for
okay, you can speak to that at grant and aid then.
Okay.
So the Bill Windman issue 10Q is the strategic working group, and that comes to the recommendation. Okay, everybody cool? All right.
Chair?
Yes, Frank?
I just want to add at the end a quick note on an update from the Selkirk Innovates meeting that was at yesterday.
Please. Okay, Frank. And late emergent items, please, Frank. So that's 13A, and that is an amended agenda now, folks. Can I have a motion?
Motion, yeah.
Okay. Anyone not in favor of that? Okay, let us go on to draft minutes. Are there changes in these minutes? Thank you, Bill. Seconded?
Second.
Anyone not in favor? Okay, consent agenda. These items go from 5A to 5G. And I would like us to have a conversation on the City of Trail Warming Centers issue, if you don't mind.
And I will just comment on 5E Area A APC minutes.
Okay, comment. Ellie. Terry,
Through the chair, can I start?
please.
On 5B, the City Trail Warming Centers. I'm not going to take up a lot of time. Everybody's probably read the letter. There's a disagreement between the city and the regional district, as we all know, regarding why the warming centers or warming shelters were not open this weekend. I'm not going to get into any details for myself. I'm just hoping that staff from both the City Trail and the regional district can get together and figure this out soon. So that it's only the end of January. That's what can happen. As we all know, in February, they can get cold again. So we get something done right away, hopefully, and move forward. That's all.
For sure. Thank you, Terry. I agree. I'd like to comment on this. There was one comment in that radio, that interview that doesn't sit well with me at all, calling it political, etc. I believe that I would like to see this board send a letter suggesting exactly what Terry said right now, that the City of Trail and the regional district sit down and have this conversation and work this out with some clarity, but also that we take issue with a comment that says this is political, etc., etc. There's one line in there that doesn't sit well with me at all. Andy Merrill? Andy? Go ahead. You're muted.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to also make a recommendation to Education and Advocacy that there has been some confusion with provincial bylaws in regards to the building codes. I would like to see that revisit, some advocacy there for us to advocate on behalf of this situation with the province. So whether that goes to AKBLG as an addition or UBCM,
Okay, so we can use that as direction to staff, Andy. And I would ask for any of the rest of you to speak to the letter that I am suggesting that we share with and send to City Trail requesting exactly what Terry said, mildly worded, but also mentioned that most of our people are happy with the comment. Go ahead, Bill.
I prefer that we leave out the political stuff. I'd like to keep it at the low level first. Statements were made. We don't need to raise the tempo, and I think we just tell staff to work with staff and try and work it out. I heard the radio thing. I don't agree with it, but I don't think we should jump on the political bandwagon.
Yeah, I'm fine either way. Sharon?
I was going where Bill was going. When we hear words like personal vendetta, we really need to de-escalate that.
Okay. I think we're in agreement with that. Just asking for a meeting and a sit down and try to come to an agreement without all the rest of the stuff in it. Okay, can I have a motion? Yeah. I think Terry moved it. Is that what you were doing, Terry? Was making that as a motion? So it's second, Linda.
Absolutely.
Anyone not in favor of that? Okay, everybody online good? Frank, Andy, you're all good? Okay. All right, let us go forward with anything else. Ally?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. The Area A minutes under item 8A, the APC recommended
8A?
in the minutes of the
Oh, okay.
of the
8A minutes.
APC minutes.
Yep.
The APC is supporting an application for a subdivision based on incorrect information we received. So this item is now going back to the APC for review with updated information. I just want the group to know that.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. All right, everybody good? If there's nothing else you want to pull out, so we can have the recommendation that the items in the Board of Directors January 28th consent agenda be received, please. Great. Anyone not in favor of that? Okay. Presentation at the request of the board, none. Delegations, none. Applications in person attending. To speak to an item, there is none as far as I'm concerned or that I know. Unfinished business, none. Let's jump into committee recommendations to the board. Boundary Services Committee, and this is for approval of Area D Mosquito Control 5-year financial plan. Area D?
Yes, well, so moved, absolutely. What you want?
Well, I can read the whole recommendation if you would
I
like.
thought maybe you were looking at the chair of that committee.
Well, okay, I'll move it.
Either one can move it.
Okay.
I can have a second for that. Right. Any conversations on Area D mosquitoes? Anyone opposed?
I appreciate the work.
Okay. All right, let's go on to 10B, and this is Christina Lake mosquitoes, and this is for approval, and I am happy if someone would approve this motion. Thank you. Anyone not in favor of that? Boundary Services Committee, Christina Lake noxious weeds, and I'm happy with this as well, and I'm sure you approve. Thank you, Sharon. Seconded, Richard. Anyone not approve? Okay. Boundary Services Committee, Christina Lake Recreation Committee, and this is approval for this one 023. And I'm happy with it. Thank you, Richard. Seconded by Sharon. Anyone not in favor of that? Okay, Boundary Services Committee, this is Greenwood, Midway, and Area E Recreation, and this is for approval as well. Thank you, John. Seconded by Richard. Anyone not in favor of that? Boundary Services Committee, 10F. This is Boundary Museum Service, and this is for approval as well.
So
Thank you. Second, Richard. Do you want to comment, Richard, as well? And everybody's good with these? Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, this is Boundary Services Committee, Beaverdale and Specified Area E Recreation. Any conversation? This is for approval.
Motion with a comment. You'll see that it's gone in red up to 351 increase. We're moving that back to 25,000.
Okay.
Previous year. And
Thank you for that update, Chair. Any conversation there from anyone? No? Okay, second? Are you seconding, Richard?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone not approve? Okay, Boundary Services Committee, Heritage Conservation Area D. And this is for approval as well, Area D. Thank you, seconded. Any conversation at all? Anyone not approved? Okay. Boundary Services Committee, Boundary Animal Control Service. And we have talked about this at length. Any of you online, if you have a question, Andy, Frank, make sure that you let me know, please, because sometimes I don't see your hand up. Okay?
I'll move.
Thank you. And seconded. Great. Any conversation here, people? Okay, hearing none. Anyone opposed? Okay, Boundary Services Committee, Big White Noise Control. This is for approval.
Motion
Director?
recommend.
Thank you. Seconded by Richard. Any conversation on big white noise? None? Anyone opposed? Okay. East End Services Committee. East End Services Committee, Regional Parks and Trails, Electoral Area B, Lower Columbia Old Glory. This is for approval. Director?
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded by?
Bill.
Bill? Any conversation on this? Hearing none? Anyone opposed? East End Services Committee, East End Economic Development Service. This is for approval.
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded. Linda? Conversation. Go ahead.
0%. Love it.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Any other comments? Okay. Anyone against this? Alrighty. East End Service Committee. This is Control Specified Area, Columbia Gardens, Noxious Weed. And this is for approval as well. Motion. Thank you. Comments? And then seconded. Linda, any comments? Hearing none. Anyone opposed? East End Services Committee, Budget, East End Cemeteries. This is important, people,
I'll make recommend.
for approval. Right? Anyone opposed? Okay. Electoral Area Services Committee. And this is appointment of the following. And this, and I can read all these names if you wish me to, however.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you very much. Seconded by? And this is for Big White, is it? No?
Area A.
Area A, or sorry, Area A. Any comments on this? Nope. Happy to see that many people, Ally. Good for you.
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Education and Advocacy. Resolutions to AKBLG. The backgrounders are all there, and that the recommendation is that the Board of Directors direct staff to forward backgrounders on the following subjects to the Association of Kootenai Boundary Local Governments for its 2026 convention. And these include long-term care, restaurant at rest stops, biosolids, Bill M216 Professional Reliance Act, Fortis BC PSPS, cell service in Lower Columbia communities, community works funding, and third parties. So I'm glad you guys are in such agreement today. Okay, first and seconder, any comments there? None? Everybody online good? Okay, anyone opposed? Strategic Working Group. This is 10Q, and this is our friend over yonder here. That the concerning funding for capital assets reserve levy, the Board of Directors review each service based on RDKB planning guidance, fill in appropriate paragraphs relating to each service, and provide short-term and long-term guidance to staff. Phil, would you like to speak to this?
This was a part of the strategic working group that we did in January. And the whole idea of, board, at least close to a month to review everything and then to come back with this board meeting to move forward with the idea of a reserve levy. And hopefully that will lead into a reserve bylaw.
Okay, can I have a motion and a seconder? Then we can speak to it if everybody has a comment. Terry? Motioning?
Yes.
Second?
No.
Okay. Comment?
Yep.
Please.
Chair, I'm very concerned about this. I see the need, I understand the reason, I think we should do it. I think maybe we should do it next year, not this year.
Okay, any other comments?
Yes, thanks for that, Linda Kate. Looking at it, provide short-term and long-term guidance to staff. Is it, am I correct in understanding that it's done service by service? So should you have a service that you wanted to defer until next year, we could do so?
Yes.
Yes.
This isn't tying you to anything.
Okay,
To clarify that.
thank you.
Okay. Ellie?
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I have talked about in the past is changing the terminology and using different terms. I think is confusing. What I also think is confusing is when we put the infrastructure levies in as a different line item from the requisition, so then we're not really clear on so I think there's still a lot of confusion as to how to read these items and understand the different terms.
Yeah, and I think there's work to be done on that. You know, this is a first step for us, and I think that if we all get on the same page, Bill, am I correct here? Do you want to speak to that?
I think so. I understand. I found that the budget submissions very confusing to me to understand for the way I look at budgets. And I understand the separation, but I also understand the total combined cost of requisition should be reviewed as a total. I understand that. I think the focus here is the fact that if we move over to a reserve levy of some form, the whole idea is to put it into that levy, and basically it takes board approval to move it out for capital projects. This is where you want to go, because you don't want to be having a capital levy or a reserve levy or something like that that allows you to slip into operations back and forth. Where this is, and I personally feel that if we'd gone this route as a board 10 years ago, well, actually in 20, when was I voted out last time? 2008, when we talked about the sewer plant.
Yeah.
We talked about putting in a reserve fund for the sewer plant for East End Services then. And I strongly was in favor of starting off small. And the argument was, well, we don't know how much it's going to cost. I said, well, let's start at 50,000, start something. But it was shot down until we know the final cost. Well, the final cost finally came in. And now the people that were on the sewer plant are looking at a 40% increase in regional district taxes. And I feel that the board could have been more proactive in producing some form of a levy on that. It didn't affect me in Fruitvale. I understand that, but I'm just using that as an example. So what I'm trying to do is approve this and let staff move forward. And it's service by service. If we go to a service and you see the infrastructure levy and you're not happy with it right now, then it's up to that committee to vote it down and put it in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, that's the point I was going to speak to. I strongly agree to the service by service review. We're not going to probably do them all in 1 year, but let's start picking them off and do service by service review.
Yep, totally
I agree
agree.
with that.
Yep, totally agree. I would also take this opportunity to thank you, Bill, for the work you've done on this.
And Farhead.
And Farhead, yes. You haven't heard it? Okay, you're behind me, Farhead.
Through the chair, today is actually our good day because on I did new business in 11.5.
Yeah.
I have consolidated all the service and how it looked like, and also in the context of all the 74 services as well. So today is we'll be deliberating on it and we'll be making a decision on which service we are moving forward, which services. So that's coming later.
Thank you, Farhead, appreciate that. Okay, are we good? Is there any further comments? All right, anyone opposed to this? Thank you, people, and thanks again, Ben. All right, new business, ALC referral. This is non-adhering residential use. The staff report is attached, and the recommendation is that the Board of Directors direct staff to not forward Agricultural Land Commission application number 106094. And I have a motion and a seconder, then any discussion can take place. Richards, second, please. Brenda? Okay, conversation here. Are you all good? All right, anybody opposed? Okay, appointments to Public and Technical Advisory Committee. I can also read all of these to you if you so desire. The recommendation is that the Board of Directors approve the amended terms of reference for the Public and Technical Advisory Committee as presented on January 28, 2026 board meeting. Further, that the following individuals be appointed to the Public and Technical Advisory Committee as of January 28th. And you will see all of those continued on the next page. Would you like to speak to this, Janine?
If I may, Chair,
You may.
very quickly, we actually had a very good response to our request for interested folks. So very happy with the group of individuals that have put their names forward and I think we've got a very good balance and some skill sets and as well as perspective. So I'm very happy with it. I will note that I am making a recommendation to amend the terms of reference to increase the interested parties section from 8 to 10 to accommodate a couple of extra people on that portion, which I think will be of benefit to this group. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I totally agree with that, Ellie.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Janine. I do have a question under RDKB staff, a position called Procurement and Contract Coordinator. Have we had that position for a long time, or is that funding through the department? Or?
If I may, Chair?
Yes,
So
please.
it's funding through my department. It's primarily work in my department because we do quite a bit. And it used to be the project coordinator. So when that individual left the organization, I reevaluated sort of the needs of the department and what would be best served. And through that, we created this procurement and contract work.
Thank you.
Also move.
Thank you, Chair. Bill? Anybody else? Second. Linda? No other comments? Anyone opposed? Okay, let's go on to 11C. Final 2026 work plan and proposed 2026-2030 five-year financial plan, building inspection services. And the recommendation is to approve the work plan and defer for a future meeting, the five-year financial plan budget. Would you like to speak to this?
Brian
Would you like to speak?
Brian is away, but James is here to speak.
James, would you like to speak to this?
Certainly. Sorry about the camera there. Yeah, just to provide a brief overview. The budget overall, as you'll have seen, is not a significant increase this year. There's a couple of drivers with the budget. Basically split into a couple of categories. We're buying a new vehicle. There's some short-term borrowing for that and allowing for increases in our staffing. There's not a lot of other movement in the budget. There's no changes to the work plan. Really status quo for the building department for services. You will see in the detail of the budget that we don't have finalized for year end. There will be some shifts between municipalities and electoral areas in the cost distribution. So that will change. If some recall, the model is that the 2 years past building permit revenues influence the distribution of costs in this coming year. So 2024 is the year that we base this year's cost distribution on, and that obviously has a change from 2023. So there's some more detail, I think, deferral of the budget because the year-end actuals will shift a few of those numbers around. So we're happy to answer any other specific questions, but ultimately don't see the main costs, as in the expenditures for this budget, changing much between now and February. Thank you.
Okay, James. Frank?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple, I have questions about the electric cars replacement.
Mhm.
So all 5 of them to be replaced up to 2030?
Yeah, current plan. We're planning for that, but I think we want to look at it this year. It relates to our kind of fleet policy that we feel needs to be reviewed and considered for electric vehicles. Our policy talks about 5 years and 170,000 kilometers. And I think it's based really on traditional vehicles. So our vehicles will be coming 5 years of age. Building inspection vehicles certainly won't be that amount of mileage. So we want to look at it to think that we're making best use of, do we keep the EVs? How long do we keep them? Because a lot of our building inspections, certainly trail side, they never reach that amount of kilometers in 10 years, right? They're traveling around locally. So Brian is just planning for that in the budget, that we can work through a replacement cycle, but we're not determining that we're going to be doing one vehicle every year, not yet.
Okay, well, that's what it says in the sheets, but I was wondering about what condition are these cars in, right? Because 5 years for one of these cars isn't a lot.
No.
Okay,
And
thank you.
what we're trying to determine is what is the best age or mileage to kind of think about electric vehicles being traded. We don't know that yet, so we're going to do some research this year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Bill?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Frank was saying. I don't like seeing $60,000 worth of electrical vehicles a year cost by 2030. And I just think that has to be removed, or maybe every 3 years or something like that. And if your policy says every 2 years, fine, but right now that's sort of saying the implied policy is every year starting right away for 5 years, and it shouldn't be there if you're not ready to say that right now. That's my only comment on that. The only other one I have is, because this is a bugbear for me, is the fruit building for a surprise there, which everybody seemed to know about except for me. I think there's, as I understand the budget on building inspection, there's a baseline cost to cover a certain amount, and then there's the add-on cost based on how much you use it. And when I'm looking at the budget, I cannot find the baseline cost versus the extra added revenue cost. And I'm asking that be tabled or put into in the next iteration, so I can see that. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's not part of the formula for that's not part of the budget. It's part of the contract that we have to provide building inspection services to each of the municipalities. We can certainly provide that.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking for. So it's easier for me to explain it to my council, so I don't get the feedback that I provided here.
Through the chair, recommend the number I was looking for that is actually in the work plan, where Brian Chaplin explained what were the permit issued for 2024, what was the value, what was in 2023, because we are using 2024 permit value for 2026, but it's a 2-year delay that James explained.
I did not see that breaking down by village or user.
If you can go on the work plan, I think it's all in there.
In the meantime, we
Okay,
can,
I'll look, sorry.
okay, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, then can I have a motion and a seconder for this, and then any further comments you'd like to make? Sherry, thank you. Seconder Richard. Any other comments here? You want to wait for this information, Bill?
No, they settled
good?
in the next report, so I'll
Okay.
follow up.
Okay, so remember, this motion is for approval of the work plan, but deferring the 5-year plan, right? Next to the next board meeting. Anyone opposed to that? Okay, 2026 work plan proposed, 2026-2030 5-year financial emergency preparedness service, Mark Stevens. Motion and a seconder first, and then we'll turn it over to Mark Stevens.
Motion.
Great, seconded by.
Second.
Great. Okay, Mark.
Thank you. Through the chair, good afternoon. So presenting the work plan and budget, nothing has significantly changed in the work plan from the previous version that the board saw. We did add some time in for the amount of effort that we're spending with the BC Winter Games this year, just to capture that within that. But there's no substantial changes within that work plan. As for the budget, the first draft that you see here, emergency management services, emergency preparedness service, we got caught up in this in the deadline overlaps between our grants and the actuals and the budget deadline. And so what you're seeing before you is a budget that is very much the first draft in looking at, and so I've spoken to that in the actual staff report. When we look at the second draft that I've been working closely with finance on, we're nowhere near these numbers. We show a modest surplus from last year, as well as requisition down around the 16% mark, and then an infrastructure levy closer to that 3% mark from there. And so I'm looking for a deferral of that as well, just so that we can have those actuals and budget prepped and ready for the next meeting. We do have a number of projects that drive that 16% that you'll see next time. Travel costs have increased for our staff. We've kept that budget pretty low over the last number of years, but we are seeing pressures on that, so that's increasing by a little bit. We are recommending to have some funding in place for an EM strategic review with the possibility of the regulations coming in next spring. We would like to have a consultant on hand and ready to go if we have that in place, or if those regulations come in, so that we can start that review to see where we stand with those regulations and the new act. We also have some small equipment increase. We're finding that our technology is not lasting as long as it used to, in terms of how much we're using them and all that, and the price of them are going up, and so we are looking to increase that slightly. And then the other two are staff time or staff wages not covered by EMCR. EMCR has become quite restrictive with what we can claim and what we can't claim. And what we're finding is there are situations where we need to put staff on standby for a weekend to keep them close to be able to respond to emergencies quickly. We currently don't have a budget line item to capture that. Sometimes it is recoverable from the province, and sometimes it isn't. And so we're looking to start developing a little bit of a line item there. It'd be very similar to what we do with our consultant costs not covered by EMCR, where we tax for it the first time, and then we only replenish it back up to that $40,000 there. And then the last one is for our emergency management and fire smart communication consultant. So this is to have a company come in and redesign our website and make it disaster ready in the case that we get hit by a large disaster or that we have increased traffic. We have experienced some challenges with our website over the last little while. We do have funding from FireSmart to increase the ease of use of the FireSmart portion of the website. However, we haven't been able to find a consultant willing to undertake that work just because of the age of our website infrastructure for that website. So we're looking to have some funding to be able to get a consultant in and a company in to rebuild that for us, as well as be able to further have it set up with a content management system that any EOC staff could potentially update that website in an emergency situation. And so those are the projects that are really driving that 16% increase that you'll see during the next draft of the budget. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Right?
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you, Grace. Thank you, Chair. Mark, I just want to let you know this morning I slipped on the ice and hurt my back. So I was a little cranky. So you're telling me that we're not going to have a 41% increase made me feel better.
Yeah, I'm sorry that was the case. It was just one of those things where the deadlines didn't line up for us to get the actuals in that we needed to show that the correct way.
Yeah, and you guys are doing a great job, but this EMCR and not reimbursing us for emergency thing, that's a real problem. And I think is that something we should go to the ENA and press on again with the province? Okay, I think we should do that.
If I may, through the chair, there is talk in the latest update of the financial guidelines from EMCR. There is talk about having broader costs covered, so especially these, in particular, these standby costs. There are some regional districts within the southeast that incur large amounts of standby costs. They do standby quite more frequently than we would. We have quite a conservative approach to that, making sure that we also want people to be able to have a life outside of work and enjoy the beautiful area that we live in. And so we need to balance that with the response capabilities that we need. And so I am hopeful that the new financial guidelines that will be released sometime this year will speak to that. And once again, if those standby costs are now covered, then we can look at also reducing that total amount that is needed for that fund.
Thank you.
Andy?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much, Mark, for putting these details together. With the new changes that are planning to come in, is coming spring or the next spring, 2027?
It's forecasted for 2027. I will admit has been a revolving door of delays with them. It was supposed to be released, just like the Act. It was supposed to be released a number of years ago, and then it was delayed and delayed and delayed. And so it is anyone's guess when, but we just have to keep going with the information that we have at hand, which is 2027.
So you're suggesting or proposing that we put $100,000 together or into the budget as a line item in preparation for seeking a consultant to support those changes?
In total, there would be a little bit of funding. So one is the $50,000 for Mercy Plan and HRVA review. That one has already been requisitioned or has already come from reserve, and that's where that initial comes from. The only thing that would hit requisition this year is the $25,000 for a strategic review. Having that in the budget for 2026 allows us to be nimble and be able to enter into a contract and successfully be able to put out an RFP later this year in preparation for that. So if we get word that it is in fact going to be happening for sure in the spring, then we can issue an RFP to have that come into place, knowing that we have budget to start that project. And then the remaining $50,000 for that would be requisitioned next year.
Right. Okay. I just see these substantial line items for consultant services, and it just kind of, it irks me that we're having to invest that much money in changes that are provincially mandated. And I know there's been discussion about your efforts to update the department, and obviously an EM review is important to do so, but because the province is legislating changes and we're having to fork out money to basically bring them into our policies and procedures, it just irks me that that money is not available at the same time these changes are coming in from the province.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I fully understand that, Director Morrell. What we're presenting, I think, is a fair balance of not committing ourselves too much to actual funding things and hoping for grants to come. I would expect that once the regulations come out, there will be some sort of grant funding opportunities from the province, and that's why I don't wish to try to requisition the whole amount that we need at this point. But I think that being able to jump on a consultant sooner than later allows us to be flexible and get the best quality consultant. There are not very many high or qualified EM consultants in the province that could take on a larger project like an HRVA or a risk assessment and EM plan update. And so being able to capitalize on hiring one of those, retaining one of those consultants would be beneficial. And as I said, that portion of it, the risk assessment, HRVA and emergency plan, that initial $50,000 does come from reserve.
Linda Kay?
Thank you, Chair. Do we need a motion or direction to staff about that agenda item?
Is that E&A? That's direction to staff and IE to you.
Yes.
Okay.
I noted that, Chair.
You noted it?
I'll say good. That's what I needed. Thank you, Anita.
Okay, so we do have a motion then and a seconder. Bill?
Yeah, just a few questions. So Mark, when we go down to your capital requisition, you want $65,000 a year for a levy. And it looks like you're saying all your vehicles and equipments are running out of steam at the same time. You've got SPU trailers 1, 2, equipment and trailer, and 20 years and 10 years on page 9. So I'm just wondering, why are you planning on purchasing them over a 5-year period, a 10-year, like you've got 10 or 20 years, you're building up the funds, or is this going to be a loan, or what's going on there? I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So we haven't traditionally, as most services, we don't have an asset levy or infrastructure levy in place yet. And so we are just starting right now. The average lifespan of an SPU is about 20 years. And so we're amortizing the entire cost of that over 20 years. With the SPUs, it's a little bit different because if they do go out on a deployment or get used under provincial request, then any damage to the equipment is recoverable from the province. And so it's hard to actually determine how much wear and tear will be on these units in that sense. If they're never used, then there isn't much that's needed. We service them every year, maintain the trailers themselves as well as the equipment that's in them. But I do feel like we need to have some funding in place so we don't get into a situation like we're a few years back where we're now needing to invest a large amount of capital into one or both units at that time. The FireSmart trailer is a smaller trailer and requires less capital to be able to maintain it. So that's why that one's over 10 years as well. It also goes out, that one also gets rented out to other municipalities across the province to be able to use as part of our grant that we received for that trailer, or the gifting of that trailer to us as well. And then our EM truck, we purchased that in 2018, so it is a little bit on the older side at this point, but it is still kicking along. We're just monitoring repair costs and maintenance costs to see when that one needs to go. But we hope to be able to have something in place for that as well.
Okay. I guess what I was hoping to see is like the EMT truck is going to be replaced in 2028 or 2030. And then we're going to do that way, the trailers in a certain frame. It just seems like you're saving money, but you don't have a replacement plan. But I'm just saying the way it looks. 102,000. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just through the chair. In our capital line item, we do have 2028 as the scheduled year for replacement for the truck. As that, in terms of the actual trailers, we don't have a scheduled replacement date for those, just because it's further out than the 5-year financial plan at this point.
Okay. Last question was the operational balance, 192,000. Why can't you take from that to solve some of these programs or consultant fees prior to getting the grant? And then if you don't get the grant, rebuild that reserve.
Thank you. Through the chair. So most of that contingency or operations money to reserve, that actually comes from the FireSmart grant to cover FireSmart coordinator's wage that we put in reserve as to fund the backfill of the EPC position that we have just hired for. So it is being utilized and will be utilized. It's just it's funding that way. So that part hasn't been used because we haven't had a EPC coordinator yet, but it is the intent of that funding that is there is for the EPC coordinator. If the grant were to cease existence, it would allow us some time to be able to continue funding that position for a little bit longer.
Yeah, no further questions.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? So the motion is on the floor, and a reminder, this is for approval of the work plan and deferring the actual budget. Anyone opposed to that? Okay. Great conversations. So this is final 2026 work plan and proposed 2026-2030 5-year financial plan, 911 emergency communications. And I'd like a motion and a seconder, and then we'll hand it over to Chief Derby. Thank you, everybody. Chief Derby.
Good afternoon, everyone. Presenting the 911 work plan, basically unchanged from what I presented in November. The thing I would like to highlight is I did speak in November to a meeting we were going to have in December with Kelowna Fire Dispatch in regards to our contractual agreement. And on the bottom of page 2 in my staff report, I speak to notice from Kelowna Fire Dispatch of a significant increase in our contract in 2028. So I'm just kind of highlighting this is a concern for us. So it's a 64% increase, which is huge. The thing that I want to say to directors is, like, we haven't signed anything or not an agreement. This is notice. The thing at the same time, though, is we haven't had an increase in this contract other than a 2.5% year over year. In regards to what basically happened is they reviewed their service delivery, and internal to Kelowna realized that our fee for service was still based on the call volume from our RFP in 2017, and they hadn't taken into account in their 2.5% year over year the actual cost increases that they've been experiencing in the what will be the 10-year life of our contract by the time we get to 2028. So for now, it's a notice. That's the only change in the work plan. And in the work plan, we speak to wrapping up the capital works that have taken place over the last number of years. We have one little piece that we didn't finish because of weather this winter that will be wrapped up in the spring of 2026, but it doesn't change the work plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the work plan before I move to the budget.
Frank?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And Dan, I too was a bit put back by 64% from the dispatch. Now, I guess my question is this going to continue like this? Like, what do you foresee down the road with dispatch?
So I think you will all recall that I've been saying for some time that raising concerns about next gen 911 concerns and requirements made by the federal government. So some of that increase is based on cost increases by the technological advancements that the dispatch services are required to make. We're having a similar challenge with ECOM in our contract that we have with them, and that's our partnership with 8 regional districts, and the regional district Central Okanagan leads that negotiations, if you will, with ECOM. My gut feel is that once we get these new agreements in place both with ECOM and with Kelowna in 2027, 28, things will start to stabilize after that, because these are, I would say, a significant portion of this is the upping of the service requirements and technology requirements to meet the next gen 911 standards.
Okay, so another question, if I may. So if we had our own dispatch here in our area, we still would have to abide by those technology improvements, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the technology improvements are going to start to increase in terms of improving because of the advancements and stuff. So I can. Yeah. Anyways, that's enough for me.
Okay. Any other questions for Chief Derby? Bill?
Yeah, Chief, looking at the requisition change, you're looking at 12%, then 7, then 24, and 2028, like you said, then back down to 2, then up to 4. I added that up. I came up with about a 50% increase. Why can't we just do 10, 10, 10, and then we're more ready for 2028, and then we just cover the balance and then recover? Why do we have to do the yo-yo?
And so if you're good with the work plan, I'm happy to jump to that conversation now.
Yeah, I think we're good with the work plan. Jump to that.
So we've been doing some work on the budget since the one that went in front of you. So the first thing I want to say about the budget is, a $50,000 increase in requisition, 12.12% is directly related to the borrowing costs of the capital works that we've been doing for the last 4 years, right? And I've been saying that that's coming, and here we are. Saying that, hearing the conversation over the last number of weeks, I've been we've we've made some changes to the 5-year financial plan that will flatten that requisition over the 5 years. And so that's what we would bring back, or I can talk deeper about that today. But basically, the revised budget would see us incrementally increase over the 5 years rather than the spikes that you're speaking to. Specifically for 2026, the change in the budget is like $4,000 that I'd be looking for from what's in front of you today to what we're changing it to. And then we're using a flattening moving out further. So I can put that on the screen and show you, or I can bring it back to the next meeting.
All right, Bill says bring it back.
Everybody else will get that.
Okay, everybody? Is everybody good? Motion on the floor, approve the work plan and defer the actual budget to the next meeting. Is anyone opposed to that? Okay, let's go on to work plan proposed, etc. 5-year financial plan, and we're going to chat with Janine Ducal.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Janine.
And Frank, I'm sorry I don't have similar good news as Mark Stevens did.
So
regarding
before you
budget.
get going, can I have a motion and a seconder, and then we'll chat? Okay, good. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair. So first off, I want to preface this conversation just to give you, for those of you who aren't around here, a bit of background on the solid waste budget, this regional services budget. Taxation requisition values remained stagnant in this service from 2008 to 2018 approximately. During that same period of time, the regional district went through a process of creating the closure post-closure reserves that are a legal requirement. And so also during that time, the regional district had to put away a substantial amount of money, 2 to 3 million, I think it was at the time, and actually went into deficit in this service for about 5 years and used the surplus monies from tipping fees that were being generated to pay that back. So when I came to the regional district in 2018, the budget had already been approved, and from 2019 on, we've had a bit of a different change in how we manage this budget and what we've done with requisitions and taxation. So just to put that into context, there's also been a number of regulatory changes, obviously since 2008. Even in my tenure here, there's been a significant amount of regulatory changes that's impacting the solid waste service and specifically this budget for sure. I've talked a little bit about that historically, but now we're starting to see the results of those regulatory changes. So just quickly, the budget at this point is looking at changing at about 14.9%, and that's primarily just due to the projects that we're planning on conducting in 2026. You've seen the work plan. It's quite an aggressive work plan as per usual. There has been a couple changes to that work plan that I'll refer to in a bit, minor in nature, but changes nonetheless. Our requisition, and this is based on the taxation for that's outside of the infrastructure levy. That's something new. Right now is looking at 11.95% or $281,000 change. The infrastructure levy is a 9.95% increase in taxation or equivalency to taxation. That is equivalent to a 2% of the infrastructure gap. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but that 234,000 is the value that's at 2% of our infrastructure gap. That translates into a 9.95% taxation or requisition. So totaling those two, you get 21.9% currently. And as I talked, a number of projects that we've identified in 2026, obviously solid waste management planning. We're looking at paving some areas of the Grand Forks landfill that we weren't able to conduct in 2025 due to costing. We've got repair and replacement of some environmental monitoring wells that are a regulatory requirement that we need to meet. Further studies surrounding options to extend the operational life of the Grand Forks landfill has been reported in previous reports from me is that when we did the financial update on the closure and post-closure of Grand Forks, we identified at that time that the airspace or the anticipated lifespan of that facility was significantly less than what we had previously understood. It went from a potential closure date of 2044 down to 2037. And primarily that's because we did a better job this go around of doing aerial surveys and on the ground survey work to confirm on the ground contours and kind of buttoned up the data. So that's kind of within the existing permitted area for the landfill. We still have more area at the Grand Forks facility property that's outside the permitted area from the province, but that will entail us undertaking additional studies, most likely implementing a leachate collection and treatment system at that site, and a number of other infrastructure needs at that location that we need to be starting to think about right now and putting money towards them, because it's going to cost significantly more to operate that facility than it does right now. So, and then of course we also have a plow sand maintenance truck that we've been trying to buy for a few years. It's actually past its operational life. And we've, for various reasons, money's being one of them, we haven't been able to buy that. That's in the budget again this year, as well as we're looking at replacing the lumber. It's also reached its operational life as far as hours go. So with kilometers for vehicles, hours for equipment. So that's how you kind of have to look at it. We will be obviously suggesting an infrastructure levy. The work plan has been changed slightly. So I've put in an increased value of basically consulting fees associated with helping me review the contaminated soil policy. That was something we were trying to do last year. I'm still waiting actually to get information from tech to help facilitate that review. For whatever reason, they're not giving me what I've asked for in a very timely manner, but we're hoping for 2026 that occurs. So I've got $10,000 in there. And then I also had to put some money in, a minor amount at this point, about $5,000, because the landfill, the federal methane emissions regulations that I have been talking to you guys about, I think in the last couple of years, has now come into force as of December 12th. So fundamentally, that means the regional district will have to undertake a methane emissions assessment at the McKelvey Creek landfill. And the trigger for us having additional requirements and additional methane control activities at that site is 664 compared to the provincial threshold.
Here's what I found.
Which is 1,000. Siri. Am I correct? So ultimately, we'll have to do an evaluation at McKelvey. We did do a similar evaluation in using 2024 data in 2025, and that evaluation put those emissions at 639 versus the 664 threshold. So it's good in the sense that the feds have brought these regulations in force, in the sense that we are able to now plan for it effectively, but it may mean some significant needs as far as additional diversion programs when it comes to organic waste, or the alternative being actually having to go down landfill gas collection systems and other infrastructure at McKelvey. So with that, I wouldn't say wonderful news. This is ultimately what's driving what I'm suggesting in the budget at this point in time. So the 21.9% increase in tax requisition, it basically equates at this point to a $3.67 increase for a home valued at $100,000. So if you think of who owns a house at $100,000 anymore for assessed value, so multiply that by 5. To kind of give you a good idea of what the additional cost would be for folks based on the proposed budget. Revenue changes, what I've tried to do is I've increased general tipping fees or sale of services in some cases to closer reflect the historic actual years. I've been extremely conservative in estimating tipping fees because ultimately those tipping fees are very much dependent on our economy and the construction demolition side of things. You'll probably see in the next version of this budget a significant tipping fee value that we will be able to get in 2025. And that's going to be driven because quite frankly, over on the McKelvey side, we've had 3 major construction projects that have resulted in significant amounts of construction demolition material that have come into McKelvey. I want to make sure, if we can, we put that money into reserves because it's not guaranteed money every year. In addition, we will be undertaking a tipping fee analysis. I've proposed to really look at our tipping fees and make sure that they're meeting the intention of what we want to do, which is to ultimately cover off our costs, but also balance the need for driving diversion programs. This is one of the reasons why we charge garbage at $120 a ton and source separated organics at $55. So we want to make sure that those fees are relevant, especially in comparison to our neighbors, so that we don't see border shopping when it comes to garbage disposal, but also, like I said, meeting our goals of promoting waste diversion. I've also assumed additional revenues with metal recycling plan for 2026. And then I've also assumed quite a bit of use of reserved for solid waste reserves to be used, for solid waste management plan review, paving at the Grand Forks landfill, the plow maintenance, sand truck replacement, the road loader replacement, and then I've also used some reserves for deficit reduction and taxation smoothing purposes over the 5-year plan. So just so you know, all of those projects that I just listed, if we want to take them out, the requisition actually isn't going to change as a result, because right now reserves are being utilized to pay for that. Expenditure changes, again, projects. It's all projects. And one of the ones that has come up as well is Idabel Lake. I've increased some costs there just because we're seeing additional servicing needs at Idabel Lake. We've actually got more year-round residents there, and so we're being required to provide more services there to collect garbage and recycling. And I've also increased public education and advertising very slightly, just in case we need to do more associated with our solid waste management. Infrastructure led. So here's the big one. So right now, based on the 10-year capital plan, and I have to thank Farhad and Finance Department, this regional district has done an amazing amount of work on asset management planning. And this was the first year that, because of what Farhad had done, is we were actually able to take that work and put it into our budgets for review before we brought them here. So for my budget, I've looked at a 10-year plan, and I've accounted for not only the infrastructure that's required over the next 5 years, but I've also projected out to the next 10 years because of that work. And I've also refined those plans, and I'll talk a little bit about it a little bit later. And I apologize, I'm trying to go as quickly as possible.
That's fine, Jenny.
But I want to make sure that's understandable for you fine folks. So based on that, we're looking at a 2% start with increasing that levy by 1% up to 6% in 5 years. So ultimately what that means is for the first year, we're looking at an infrastructure levy of $234,000, increasing to $700,000 in 2030. And ultimately that's going to be put to reserves right now to pay for things like the loaders for any future infrastructure, as well as at this point, because it's not a defined capital reserve, like that's something that we can look at future is having reserves for operations versus capital. So right now it's combined. And so I'm wanting to make sure that we're generating enough to be able to ultimately at some point in the future split that out to represent more of the operations versus the capital. But that's where we're at right now. And with that, the reserve utilization will be able to pay for the capital that we want to do, but also, especially with the Grand Forks lifespan and the methane emissions regulations at the federal, if this regional district, through its solid waste management planning processes, wants to implement additional waste diversion programs, we're also going to need money for that. That's operational based programs as opposed to capital based programs. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a summary. I can go into details a little bit more, but also the reserves are going to be used. The landfill conformance reviews that we did in 2025 have basically outlined about $560,000 in consulting and professional fees and studies that we will have to do over the next 5 years. That's included, and at this point, I can show you in the budget detail where reserves are planned to be utilized. Where I do have an ability to use reserves, I have. So for example, there's a loader that's being proposed to be purchased this year in 2026. I'm looking at using 100% reserves for that. There's another loader that's going to is proposed within this 5-year time frame. I think it's 2028, if I remember correctly. Right now, I've assumed a value of 610,000 for that purchase. 300,000 of it is going to come from reserves, and then others for 310 from reserves and 300 from borrowing. So I'm trying to look at the use of reserves and where we're looking at future capital to not necessarily just use all the reserves, but to then balance our benefit of whether it be short-term borrowing or long-term borrowing to maximize the benefit of those reserves. It's still a work in progress, folks. Right? But that kind of gives it a little bit of a snapshot. I can go into more detail, but I'll leave it there and happy to answer any
Let's
questions.
do the questions first, Sharon.
Yeah, answered one of mine. I'm curious about the expansion, if that could be this study and looking at it as a capital expense, but again, it's operational, is what I'm hearing you say.
Sorry, when you mean the expansion, do you mean the
Yeah,
expansion
what
of the
about
Grand
that
Forks
for?
Land Board?
Yeah.
So that will definitely be capital. So when I'm talking about so capital in my world, there's infrastructure capital, that's transfer stations, leachate collection systems, sort of more long-term investments that don't have a lifespan of say 15 to 20
I'm
years.
talking about the studies themselves.
Oh, the studies themselves aren't necessarily capital. That's will come out of hopefully the reserve balances.
Okay, and the other question I had is the replacement equipment.
Mm-hmm.
The old equipment, is it going to be sold, and if so, will it go directly back to the CERC?
Correct. So what we end up doing is and this was actually one of the things that we found in the asset management plan that was an error when we started looking at the details of what the consultants had done, is we tend to, when we have a loader and we replace it at Grand Forks, for example, which is one of our busier sites. Keep in mind, McKelvey right now, we don't operate, it's under contract. So all of our equipment right now currently is on this side of the hill. So when we buy a piece of equipment at Grand Forks, that particular loader is then moved, if it still has a reasonable lifespan left, to a location like Rock Creek or something. And so we kind of hand them down within before we ultimately get rid of them. And so that's kind of what our policy is. Why we have two loaders that are coming up back to back in 2 years at this point is because ultimately they weren't replaced in the time frame that would allow them to be donated to another site. They've already reached their hours of life or anticipating to in 2020.
Thank you, Janine. Great report.
Frank?
Thank you, Chair. And Janine, you're right. I'm not as happy as when Mark was talking. So I just look at the number 22%. That's pretty big because this is a big service, a lot of money, right? So, and then with the infrastructure levy, that increases quite a bit in the next 5 years to 700,000. So I'm a bit worried about the taxation. The other thing I'm really worried about is this landfill gas assessment you have to do with the new federal government regs, right? I don't know anything about methane capture, and maybe you can educate me on what that would mean if we had to do that, because I'm thinking that's millions of dollars to do. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the short answer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can send me or all the board article about what that means, what you have to do, I'd like to know. And this just goes back to my thing about waste to energy. Instead of throwing the stuff in the landfill, let's get something out of it, right? Let's make a profit on it. And I think we should be lobbying the government for that.
Thank you, Frank. Anything else?
And just one question on these loaders. How many years do they last in terms of life cycle?
Yeah, to be honest, it kind of depends on the site and how many hours they're being utilized, but we try and push them at 10 to 15 years minimum.
Okay. Now, has anyone considered buying refurbished equipment? Because we did that for a vac truck here, and it was quite more economical.
Yeah, no, for sure. We've done that in the past, and we would love to do that when we can. The challenge is, and from a budgeting perspective, we can't guarantee that at the time when we need to purchase a piece of equipment that one is available. And even I've been working with our procurement policy, our purchasing policy, to try and allow us to, especially because of the dollar values that we're talking about, right? That if we find a piece of used equipment that we can get our hands on, we want to buy that immediately, right? And right now, the way our purchasing policy works is we have to go out to get competitive bids. And there's absolutely no way a good valued piece of equipment that's good used is going to last for that time period that we have to go through.
Right.
And so what we want to do and what I want to work with finance going forward is trying to amend that purchasing policy to give us some more flexibility to be more adept at being able to go after good used pieces of equipment.
Yeah, I think that would be a good plan. Thank you.
And I would add to that too, having owned heavy equipment, if you don't replace those in a timely manner, man, they cost you money like you have no idea. Andy.
Thank you, Chair. Janine, thanks for the report. And like Frank, there's sticker shock when we see these kind of numbers. I'm keen to hear about anticipated costs if we have to go the route of methane capture. But I really, again, as you know, sitting on the solid waste committee previously, reinforce the need for us to be educating our public to diversion, waste diversion, taking as much of the compostable materials out. That's what causes methane, and really pushing the idea of commercial and institutional diversion as well. I think that's really important down the road, and I know you're starting to work on that. We didn't invest in asphalt repaving at Grand Forks last year. And when you mentioned it was because of pricing, what has changed this year that it's back on the budget?
The only thing that's changed is I've increased the budget to allow us to get the work done. So literally the pricing that came in was almost double what we had anticipated. So two things we want to, and to be fair, we ended up going out for procurement or getting costing on that and bids on it late in the year. So what I want to do more so now is after the budget is approved, is to go out earlier in the season. With that can be done at any point during the season, which will hopefully then allow us to maybe get some better pricing, but also some more competitiveness, because then companies can bid on it and have it integrated into other work that they're already potentially doing in the area. So that's how I'm hoping to move forward with that, with keeping the costs as reasonable as possible.
And with the potential expansion of the Grand Forks site, hopefully in the future, obviously, to have to start a new landfill is extremely prohibitive. Does it make sense to invest in asphalt when we're going to be doing potentially increasing or changing the site down the road?
Yeah, no, very valid question. The timelines that are involved in us expanding and having to shift the current transfer station area, like where this paving would occur, are quite a ways out. So I'm quite confident that this investment at this time we're not going to pull a Ministry of Transportation kind of scenario where utility lines or paving happens and then utility lines take them out during digging up. So this investment would be a long-term investment. The development plan of the Grand Forks facility will take a few years to get figured out, as well as permitting from the province. So this isn't something that's going to happen immediately.
Okay, thank you.
I know that about asphalting because we're going to asphalt our entry to our house, and it has almost doubled from what it was a couple of years ago. And it is not going to get cheaper. We're talking about oil, and literally all of those things are going to do this. And we wished we'd have done it a couple of years ago. Anyway, enough said. Any other comments here? Bill?
Janine. I see a $234,000 requisition for the infrastructure levy, and then you said you only increased it to 6% to 702. thousand. In my math, that's a 30% increase. I don't know how you got the 6%.
So sorry. So for, yeah, definitely. So for clarification, the 2%, so we have an infrastructure gap.
Yeah,
An estimate of so much. 2% of that gap is the 234,000. 6% of that gap is 700,000. Similarly, the 200,000 equates to a taxation or a requisition increase of almost 10%. The 700,000 similarly reflects it.
Well, I'll put it into a perspective of a ratepayer or a taxpayer. What you're saying is I'm going out for a mortgage and they say I have a $25,000 gap. And then I say, okay, what does that mean? And they see, then they finally tell me that's a $200 increase in your mortgage over 25 years. That I understand.
Yeah.
So when you say it's a 6% gap, that makes it look smaller than it is. So what I'm saying is you're taking the infrastructure budget levy and you're increasing it 30% over 5 years. It's not 6%.
No, and it was, and I appreciate
It's
that.
terminology, and I just.
Well, and I think that's what we talked about earlier was the challenge with the terminology and how do we
Yeah,
describe
this
this
is what I
effectively
find
to
when I'm
folks.
talking to other directors as well. There's terminology. If there's 2% infrastructure gap versus a 2% requisition.
Yeah.
So I think we got to be prepared when we're saying something in the work plan or something like that. That increase in the infrastructure record in 5 years is pretty massive.
Agreed.
Okay,
Yeah, I think, you know, an overall comment on all the budgets and the infrastructure levies. You know, we haven't been doing this for a while and all of a sudden we're trying to do it immediately. And it's just gonna, I mean, I'm anxious to see the numbers at the end of this exercise for all of us, how each one of our communities are going to be impacted. And I'm concerned about what that number is going to look like. I don't know if we're trying to do too much in the first year, but the increases that I'm seeing are concerning me.
I think we are all.
You're absolutely sure that through the chair.
Okay, anything else? So this motion is work plan and then defer.
Yeah.
And we do have a motion in a second here.
Okay.
So anyone opposed to that? Okay, let us go on and talk about big white solid waste. Janine?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be real quick. And I've already talked briefly to Director Gibbs about this because again, not good news. Second version of this budget. This version looks really good. Second version is going to be a tax increase of about 1.38% as opposed to 0%. And that's basically primarily because of actuals. The primary difference between this service and the regional solid waste service is it's really more operations and maintenance based as opposed to infrastructure based. So when the transfer station itself was built, that actually was paid for out of the 010 service. The regional solid waste service. So really it's real maintenance and service provision or operational costs associated with this budget. So because of that, I'm not proposing an infrastructure levy for this one. And this one actually has quite healthy reserves in it at this point. The main driver for that is we've actually had a number of years of surplus. When COVID hit and the pandemic hit, the big white facility was not utilized as much and hence waste generation decreased. So we actually had quite a bit of cost savings there. Plus we've been able to actually keep the costs kind of a bit more in line now that we've transitioned to an attended facility with limited hours. So fundamentally, this service has a very good, healthy reserve line. So a taxation increase and requisition increase as similar to the 010 service is not justified in my world. We do have an ability, we do have a contract coming up for renewal in 2026. The main collections contract that services Big White, that's coming up for renew. So that will be interesting to see how that procurement process goes and how that impacts additional operational costs in future. So after this year, we'll have a much better handle on what to do with that reserve going forward and where it needs to be. But at this point, this is what's being proposed. Thank you. Oh, and the work plan really hasn't changed.
Motion with a quick question. Did you get any other contractors applying, bidding on that contract?
Well, we haven't done, you mean the main collection
Yeah,
contract?
yeah.
That's coming up this year, so we're just drafting the RFP.
What was our last one? Or was it just the one?
That was quite a number of years ago.
Okay.
That contract has been renewed quite a bit.
Okay.
I'm hoping to get multiple bidders, especially being so close to Kelowna. I'm hoping.
Thank you. Motion.
Second. Right? Anyone opposed to that? Okay, let us get into general government. And maybe for this one, we'll throw this up on the screen, maybe. Might be a good thing. I anticipate there'll be quite a conversation between you and Farhan about this one. So, once again, this is approval of the work plan and deferral of the budget. So motion, thank you, seconded by Linda. Okay, let's take it away.
I'll speak to the work plan part of this, which should be relatively brief and allow Farhan to get into the budget. So ultimately, work plan is unchanged since the draft work plan was presented to the board in November. A lot of the projects, there are 41 separate distinct projects listed in the work plan. Many of those are carryovers from last year. There are a couple of more significant ones that are either new or have a more significant impact on the status quo. The bottom one on the page there is the asset management project to establish an asset management sub-function, recruitment, onboarding, software identification, and implementation. And that's a carryover project from 2025. You'll remember the discussions about the work plan and budget from our time here a year ago. And then on the last pages, there are a few new projects that aren't carryovers. There's the communications, solid waste management, planning, process communications, consideration of a new invasive weed service for electoral area B, consideration of expanded invasive weed service for electoral area A. And those are a few smaller new projects that are identified in the work plan beyond a number of others that are, for example, the climate change projects are largely commitments we have with Fortis in terms of our climate contract with Fortis and the contract that involves Freya's time and the deliverables under that contract are all included in this work plan.
Okay. Questions? Okay, so I'll jump into the budget portion.
Thank you, Chair. As Mark explained, this budget has a wide scope. It pretty much cover our admin, finance, HR, IT, sustainability, all those type of things. And in the part of the admin, it also cover all our buildings. So if you kind of oversimplify this budget, it's about the space and people. And overall, we are looking into a 11% increase, 10.8 to be precise, the regular side of things, and another 7.7% increase on the infrastructure levy side. And if you look at from 2026 to 2030, there is a little bit of fluctuation in terms of the requisition value. That is purely driven by our capital project in terms of a space. Board was heavily involved in terms of planning for this site, the Grandford location, and also last year we started planning for our trail office location as well. And as per the asset management plan, they identified some of the projects, so that's all I got included in the capital plan as well. So that was mainly driving the fluctuation from 27 to kind of a 30 onward. But for this year, we have a few new items, and I would like for board to comment and provide us direction so that we can bring in the revised second draft, which we'll seek for approval of. Or if you can go to the staff report. Yeah. Page 3. So approximately, we are looking for around $350,000 tax increase, and those $350,000 is mainly driven by this 4 item: the infrastructure levy, the new position for manager of long-term planning and asset management, and then a short-term contract for HR and a safety coordinator for 7 months, and then as you are already aware of, we are in the process of hiring our new chief administrative officer. So yeah, I think direction I'm looking for which one, how you want to see this, the first 3 to evolve. Number 4 is granted, taken.
Okay, questions? I think you're all digesting that, right? No questions yet? Yes, please.
Yeah, I was looking at the 10.8 in almost $200,000 increase, and coming down here and seeing a full-time asset manager, 1 position. It's been an ongoing discussion, but we have to do it. I'm wondering about the HR and safety coordinator, the temporary 7th month. Essentially, what and why?
Marco, yep.
Currently our manager, permanent manager of human resources on maternity leave. So we've elevated the current or the normal HR and safety coordinator to the HR manager position, and have hired a temporary for a year to cover the maternity leave. We're very concerned about the rest of 2026. Our HR manager is intended to come back probably sometime in July. The contract for our temporary HR and safety coordinator, her contract comes up in May. The concern we have is there is a ton of work in HR, and it would be good to have a transition between them. In 2026, we're undertaking collective bargaining with CUPE. We're going through collective bargaining with the IFF, and it's the 3-year cycle that we do the management compensation review. Also, none of the HR policy work has been done during the year that our HR manager has been gone, because we've discontinued that work, recognizing that the individual that's taking over in the interim isn't able to do that. So there's going to be a ton of work that is on the plate of our HR department, and think that it would be good for a temporary period of time to extend the contract of that HR and safety coordinator, anticipating all the work that's going to be the following.
Thank you for the detail.
Okay. Ellen?
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Remind me about our conversations on having the asset manager position as a contractor. I know we've kicked that around for a while. Did we land somewhere on that one, anybody?
Yeah, through the chair, last year board did approve $150,000 to engage a contractor and to implement the software. So there is 2 parts. So contractor to do the asset management work, and also to find a software that is can be integrated with our current planning system, and also can be utilized for the budget. We were not able to act on it because to kind of deliver on it, we already have done a comprehensive asset management plan back in 2023. And so we have the data, and that's actually what provided us the basis for the full infrastructure levy discussion and all those things. Hiring another contractor will actually doesn't help, because at this point it is internalizing and operationalizing what we know and updating that all those things. So contractor is one of work that actually doesn't help in terms of managing it. We did reach out to all the municipality who want to kind of join us for cost sharing and all those. And I did provide a board report, I think last year in February, showing that who is interested and who is not. Most comprehensive one came across from the city of Greenwood, the way they implemented it and the way it helped in terms of driving the community conversation as well. it's not about 10% tax increase or 5% tax increase. It's about more of a, this is the project going on in your community and all those the refined work that shows up here as part of the financial planning. So that City of Greenwood has done that. That's kind of our benchmark as well. So for that to happen, currently we have things in a fragmented basis. For example, when I consolidated all those things, we have one from 2018, we have one from 2019, we have one from 2022, we have one from 2022. So this is very fragmented, and it is kind of a have many different languages. And like, when is infrastructure levy is parcel tax? I have to educate myself, so I understand where our directors are coming from. So we need a kind of an asset management office that's kind of a coordinate the whole activity. And I'm not sure contractor, we can throw some money at, but it won't actually improve the quality of things.
Thanks, Brad.
Bill?
So, correct
Oh,
me.
Frank, I didn't see your hand.
Okay, Frank first.
Frank?
No, I
He's
just
got
put it up. I just put it up now, so go ahead, Bill.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Okay, so we put in $150,000 for the 2025 budget for a contractor that we didn't contract out to. So in my brain, help me out, that's 150,000 surplus. So that 150,000 surplus, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to increase the requisition this year, because we already have the surplus from 2025.
Through the chair, did
Yes
everybody?
or no?
You are exactly correct. So that got into, and it is actually on the budget, the sheet I provided in here, you can see it. If you look on the project and transfer from reserve, so that got transferred into reserve. And this year we have a project marked right out the establishment of asset management function, and that money is coming out from reserve, not from taxation.
Okay.
And you will see 150,000 is there.
Yeah. Okay, so why did you mention it? I'm getting confused with your staff report then, because the staff report refers to that as being a sort of a reason for the requisition increase.
So there are two parts. I think we are confusing with system, software with people. This page talks about people, the new headcount. So that's gonna cost 150,000. And I think what's confusing is both numbers are the same. That was the confusing part, because the software, the initial understanding of the market is software would cost implementation, initial training, and all those costs are around 150,000. Maybe it will cost 140. I don't exactly know.
Okay.
Bill?
Yep, that's it. Okay.
Okay, Frank?
Yeah, so in terms of adding staff, I'm thinking back to the finance department, and in the report you talked about, you still have empty positions, right? In
Yes,
finance.
you still have 2 empty positions.
Right. So, but they have been budgeted for.
They have been budgeted for.
Okay, so I would suggest we concentrate on filling those positions first before we fill an asset management position. And the other thing we could do is, if we're going to fill an asset manager position to relieve some of the cost, is wait till the HR person, our HR manager is back, and then fill that position. So you sort of have 150,000 over the year instead of 150 plus 81.
Through the chair, and that's an excellent idea. Well, that's because most of the positions that get actually approved through budget process, it takes us half of the year to kind of get through the recruitment.
Right.
So it's we'll first year impact is 75,000 out of the 150, but I put 150 to show you the full commitment to.
Okay.
Right.
So you are absolutely right. First year it won't be 150.
So the other question is, so then the money not spent on staff and finance, that's also gone into surplus, right?
And reserve, yes, yeah.
And reserve, okay. Yeah. That's my only question.
You good, Frank? Okay. Anybody else? All right. So you know the motion is to approve work plan and defer the budget?
Direction of the. Okay.
Good. Okay, anybody opposed for that? Were you worried? Hey, God, you're worried. Okay, let us go on to
So,
consolidated.
Chair
Yep.
McGregor, can I just
Yes.
ask for one more thing?
You sure can. We
I-
passed it, but you can ask for another thing. Go ahead,
Well,
Frank.
it's related, but it's a tangent. What I'd like
Yeah.
to see next time we meet is again, a one pager of all the proposed new positions, what department they're from, how much it's gonna cost.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yes, we can do
Okay,
that.
thank
All
you.
right. Ask and ye shall receive. That's our motto today. Maybe that's the wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
Okay, and we now jump into consolidated 5-year financial plan with Farhad, please. And this is for receipt. So would I have a motion?
Yeah.
And a seconder? Thank you. And go ahead, Farhad.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the big one, and this culminates into all the work we have done, all the individual budget we have seen in the committee levels and all those. So this is the first, colloquially known as the first roll-up that shows how much tax is increasing in area A, area B, Fruitvale, Rossland, and all those type of things. So what I have done is I also isolated out service by service infrastructure levy so that it doesn't meddle with the regular requisition. So overall, we are seeing for all 74 services, the requisition is increasing by close to $2 million, which is 5.76%. On top of that, we have $1.1 million of infrastructure levy. So, and that is 3.32%. So if we combine both operational requisition and infrastructure levy, so we are looking at overall increase of 9%. So that's where we are at. In terms of which services are driving that, there are 7 services, and some of these will change. For example, our emergency management, Marcus talked about the revision, same with fire rescue and all those. But what I want to focus on is on the page number 4 of the staff report, and could use some direction, when we bring in the revised budget in February. So this is all the infrastructure levy we have for all the services. Now, starting with general government service, it says we need $7 million, but my understanding is based on the decision, we need way more. But this is based on the current engineer's work, and 2% of that gap of $7 million is $140,000, which equates to close to 8% of the acquisition. To be consistent on the language and listening to the discussion, 2%, this is 2% of the gap, infrastructure gap, not 2% of the tax. So in terms of tax equivalent, is actually 8%. But our gap is so big, there are other components like whether we will get grant. Yes, we will definitely involve some kind of debt as well. We don't know that part. So the way we approached it, at least we have our share, which is the 20%. So 2% each year for 10 years give us 20% of the gap. And the remaining 80%, maybe some will be grant, some will be debt, some will be something else. We haven't figured that out yet.
With some direction to staff regarding Beaverdale fire protection. There are such small numbers, but it has such a high percentage for our requisition. And right now we're looking at door replacement and some renovations to have a new ambulance fit in. I'd actually like to remove that because in 2027, I'm going to have more money to work, or area, maybe not, area will have more money to work with. And so if I could ask for that one to be removed.
I'll just get that to James.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Ally?
Yeah, through the chair, Farhad, Columbia Gardens water supply, showing the gap at $4.5 million with 0% allotted for infrastructure levy.
Through the chair, thank you, Director Grieve. Utility are structured a little differently. utility revenue is structured as a user fee and parcel tax. And here, parcel tax is your infrastructure level. So why it is 0% here is because currently user fee does not cover all of the operating fees. So we are increasing user fees, which is outside of the taxation.
Right, and I guess I'm talking about replacement of the tank itself. Water tank, the capital
Yes.
structure. Like we don't have a capital plan there.
Through the chair, we do have a capital, like 2016, we have a kind of a strategic review of Fruitvale water.
No, that's Beaver Valley Water System. She's referring to Columbia Gardens.
Columbia Gardens one. Yeah.
There it is, yeah.
Yeah. I need to look into to the full detail of it.
Yeah, I know Gordon and I have talked about creating that long-term capital plan, which we don't have, but this system is now aging. And it does need some attention in that area.
Yeah.
If someone can look at it, that'd be great. Thank you.
Through the chair, we did actually share the Director Winman shared the full asset management plan that provided the lump sum. That's what drove this number. So the next step is to take that and drill down the details of the project.
Not understanding.
Page
but I'll
four,
take it offline.
page 404 has Columbia Gardens water supply with them.
Page two.
Page 4,
Out for.
you'll see bottom line is Columbia Gardens water supply.
Yes, I'm on that page.
Yeah, and the infrastructure, that is 14% increase.
On the table.
Yeah, you're very far. That's okay. Thank you.
Okay?
Sorry.
Yep.
Thank you through the chair. Linda Kay, you and I will need to kind of flush some of this out because many of these at Grand Forks are shared services between us, and we'll have to look at this
Together?
together. Yeah.
Yep, that's fair. That's fair.
My own personal opinion, this is staff telling us where we should be going. But we may have to eat the elephant one bite at a time, start smaller than the full amount. I just,
Yeah, and then that's what our conversation will have to be.
this is what we did in the village of Fruitvale. We started off small. And it took us 8 years to get where we had to go for sewer. So,
Like, I'm not arguing the numbers.
No,
Madam Chair, I can
get
see
that.
that it's there, 2 million for the aquatics, or 2 million for the aquatic center, and whatever that is, 13
yeah,
for the Riverville Fire. That's probably quite reasonable, but it is,
You gotta figure out how you're gonna do that.
how are we going to do that? How are we going to deliver that? And, you know, I mean, and it's election year, I know it.
we
Amazing to the staff, but the policy, but the politicians sitting around these tables got to be able to.
we had a 25-year sewer replacement plan for infrastructure. It's now 50.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
No, but the point is we funded it. Some and the high priority things are being done and the lower priority, fingers crossed, because you only got so much money.
Okay, can we,
Okay, so I'm so sorry.
In the essence of time through the chair, I'll have a conversation with you about the area.
okay, anybody can do that, but this gives you an idea, as Bill said, of finance saying where you're gonna need to go. And literally, we all know that we're gonna get dropped on at some point with infrastructure and with buildings, et cetera, and it's gonna hurt like hell, so it does hurt. Okay, so can I call a question on this? Anyone opposed? This is just for receipt.
Yeah.
No one opposed. Okay, let's go to request from Selkirk College. This is the Rural Homeless Project. And you will see the letter. The staff has not requested, staff note, Selkirk has not requested funding, but is asking for an in-kind contribution. Okay, conversation, anyone?
Trying to understand what the in-kind contributions.
I don't know. Yeah,
So through the chair, so it seems like they're looking for a presence at their tabletop discussions, workshops. That would be anywhere from 5 to 8 days a year. I did reach out to the planning department to see if they might have an interest or have staff resources. I've not heard back from them yet. So I don't know if they're looking for staff, or elected officials, or a combination of both, but
I need some clarity on it, I think. You want some clarity on this, people?
Yes, yes.
Okay, can I have just the motion to receive, please?
Second.
Seconded. Anyone not in favor of that? Okay, grants and aid. And Linda, you had something to speak to on grants and aid.
Yes, due to probably part mine and it could be part locked somewhere in the office. One of the grant maids got, somehow missed for quite a while that were approved, so, it was probably more me on things, but, anyway, it is, I talked to Anitra about it and she has recommended that I bring it up to be added into this as an emergent item because it's for work that was done on a recognition for a long time to Fair Society.
So you're adding that grant in?
Yes, it's for $2,500.
Yeah, okay. Any questions, Linda, on that one? You're motioning?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, second. Anyone not in favor of that? Okay, let's hop into bylaws, people. 1920 Area E Big White zoning bylaw amendment bylaw that the regional district Kootenai boundary zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 1920 2025 is read a first and second time, and further that staff be directed to schedule a public hearing for proposed bylaw number 1920 2025, and that electoral area E West boundary director be delegated the authority to chair the public hearing, and that the electoral area D director be designated to act as alternate. Motion. Thank you. Seconded by. Great, Linda. Okay. Any conversation? Okay. Anyone opposed? Alrighty, Frank, late item.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Chair. So yesterday at the Selkirk Innovates meeting I was at, I just wanted to make sure that people were aware, because we're talking about keeping it rural and our rural nature. The Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada has a survey. They want anybody to participate in, if they want to, about, it's called Help Shape the Future of Rural Canada, Moving from Strategy to Action. So I wanted to make sure people were aware, so if they wanted to go onto the site and go to that survey, that they would do that.
Thank you, Frank.
Now I can work with Anitra to get a link to everybody, I think.
Like, yeah,
Just giving you a little more work, Anitra.
we appreciate that, Frank. Okay, anything else for late items so far? All right, does everybody good for us to go in camera? If so, I'd like a motion. Motion. And a seconder. Anyone opposed? Okay, anyone online that is not part of this media board, say goodbye to you. Thank you for being on. Bye. Anyone want a break?
See you later.
Break? No break?
Yeah, you got a trip to the house here. No.
Yeah, just a stretch.
Yeah, stretch.
Yeah.
We better be on it.
Run.
Yeah, Castlegar at 6 o'clock. Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Allie, thanks.
You just throw the whole.